I'm Robin Vincent and welcome to the October edition of Molten Music Monthly. Now this might all look a little bit different to normal because I'm inside and yet I've got a scarf on and my hair's a complete state and I might be looking a little bit more haggard and stressed than usual. We've had a bit of a time. We've got the builders in doing all sorts of work. We've got no heating. The heating I had in the shed I've had to put in the house because we're freezing to death in here. So we're freezing to death out here and over there as well. And I got so much work to do, so many videos to make, and I can't work in the shed because it's so flippin' freezing, but I didn't have anywhere else to do this. And also it's the middle of the night because I haven't had time to do it because I'm too busy sorting out builders and heating and hanging radiators and messing about. And then I had this flipping computer over here got cancelled after I spent a week putting the thing together. And I've got that sitting around. It's just, it's the end of the financial year. I've got paperwork. You don't need to know about all of that. Other than I'm just giving you reasons why I might look a bit of a state and how I might just reach the edge at some point during this video, but I must get it done because tomorrow is Halloween and that means it's November the next day, which means then an October video seems completely pointless. So I have to get this done now so I can edit it hopefully tomorrow and upload it before we actually hit November. But here we are at some Molten Music Monthly. It's a chat about everything that's happened in the past month, about music gear and synthesizers and hardware and software and all that sort of rigmarole. If we can be bothered. Can we be bothered? Yeah, I think we can be bothered. I think that would be good. I think, well, at least I'm going to drink a beer because I deserve it. After a day like today, God. Never get an extension. Don't mess with your heating. Don't ever do it. That's my advice. No, I'm not really going to do that. What I should do is put the pen in the side, like what's it off that movie when he did. So, what are we talking about? Let's have a look. So, people go polysynth crazy over the new Moog One. Akai fire up a controller for FL Studio, M Audio and Fluid Audio. Both release really exciting, if you can get excited about audio interfaces, with big knobs on the top. Soundbrenner come up with the ultimate musician's utility watch. TouchAble Pro makes a leap to Windows. Riffer makes your DAW's sequencing feel more analog. And Novation put analog style step sequencing into a MIDI controller. MINI.MU let you sew together your very own chiptune. Why can't I say chiptune? Chiptune. Chiptune? Chiptune. This is not going to go well. This is not going to go well. I think, well, maybe you should skip ahead. Anyway, MINI.MU have produced, I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but MINI.MU, just to get the nugget out there, MINI.MU let you sew your own chiptune controller gloves. No, I can't say it. Pipes brings massive sample-based instruments to hardware. And we also have a fistful of synthesizers to talk about. But first, Synthfest. Yes, it was Synthfest again, back up at Sheffield. The awesomeness of the synthesizer show. It's been 2 years since my first my first confession. No, my first trip to Synthfest. And it was 2 years ago that I was born again, if you like, into the world of Eurorack Modular. Yeah, I've just been into synthesizers before that, mostly. And software, of course. But then it was that 2 years ago at Synthfest that I just finally unraveled this idea of Eurorack. And something which had been completely boring to me beforehand suddenly became the most exciting thing I'd ever seen. It was amazing. So anyway, it's a bit of a pilgrimage for me. So I went back again this year and had a similarly lovely time. There wasn't anything in particular that really blew me away. There was nothing particularly new I was seeking out. Or maybe that's probably my fault. There probably was loads of really cool stuff and I just completely missed it. No, I'm not sure. I just had a really nice time. It was chilled. It's got a lovely vibe to it. Everyone's just, relaxed and groovy and just milling about, pressing buttons, tweaking things, that sort of thing. I got to play on a Moog Grandmother, which was really nice. I got to play on a Modal Sculpt, which was kind of a bit weird, really. Not sure about that. I had a great time messing about with the generator from Analog Solutions. I got a great demo on that and what that's all about and how that all works. And it turns out, I said last month that I'm going to be getting one of these for review. Turns out I had that completely wrong. That I just made that up. That somehow entered my head all by itself. And speaking to the guy at Analog Solutions, he's going, no, he's never heard of me. And that doesn't seem very likely. But, you know, he's open to stuff. So that's just a really bit of weirdness that I would have somehow invented in my head, that he was going to give me a generator sequencer to review. Oh well, who knows. The other great demonstration I got was from Nina from Transistor Sound Labs. They've got a new stepper drum thing. They've got the stepper acid sequencer, which I think is brilliant. I really would like to have one of those if I had the space for it. But they have a new one, a prototype there called the stepper drum, which is of course a drum machine done in a similar sort of vein, but it kicks out triggers to all sorts of drums and patterns, and very good for live performance and chaining stuff together and doing stuff on the fly. It was great. All the big brands were there, you know, Moog, Arturia, Korg, Yamaha, Roland. They're all pushing their stuff and showing you their things. But I find most interesting is the little stuff, is the smaller people, the Eurorack bits and pieces. I mean, Erica Synths were there. I had a play on the Techno System, which was brilliant. Soulsby were there, Expert Sleepers, Future Sound Systems. All these people were milling about and getting stuck in and showing their stuff. And it was really good. I just had a really nice time and spoke to lots of people. Lots of people come and said hello, which was brilliant. Love all of that. And we didn't feel too awkward, I don't think. You know, no one overstayed welcome or anything. We just had a chat and then moseyed on. That was great. Brilliant. Thrilling, in fact, to have people come up and say hello. It's just the best. It's the best thing, I think. So thank you for that, anyone that I said hello to. Super lovely. So I can recommend Synthfest to you every year. You know, give yourself the chance to get up to Sheffield and go and check it out. Now there is a whole load of seminars and stuff there as well, but that's just not really my scene, I don't think. Probably it should be. I don't know. It's one of these weird things in that I love this whole Eurorack business, but I'm just not that interested in learning lots of sort of deep and interesting things about it. I know, you know, some people do, and that's fine. I just like to play with the gear. And so I'm upstairs all the time, just playing with the gear. That's what I like best. So the Synthfest highlight for me was definitely Nina on the stepper drums, and also the generator at Analog Solutions. Both those things look like really exciting bits of gear, because I am very at the moment focused into the idea of live performance, because that's going to come up. I'm going to talk about that at the end of this video, I think, because that's something which I'm about to be involved in. And so those sorts of things, the way of creating sequences, the way of not just creating a patch, but creating something which goes more and further than that, that is becoming my very vague focus at the moment. Moog have finally come up with a successor for the Memory Moog, the great big fat polyphonic keyboard from 35 years ago. They have now released the Moog One. It's a beauty. I mean, it's a huge thing with a gazillion knobs and a wooden construction and metal and bakelite and stuff going on. It's an immensely beautiful object. It's an instrument to desire, to aspire to look at and just go, wow, I'd just really like to get my fingers in there and get playing with all that stuff. It's a thing. It's a beast. It's available at 8 voice or 16 voices. It's got 3 oscillators per voice and filters, a couple of filters and envelopes, and, you know, all the usual sort of synthesizer type gubbins, but with everything out on the front panel for you to just enjoy and immerse yourself into this art form that Moog produced, this art form of synthesis. It's not just a synthesizer, it's a work of art. At least that's, I think, probably how you should approach it. It has a sort of performance section where you can store up to 64 presets in one bank, and these banks are loaded kind of individually, so you've got instant access to those 64 presets, and those 64 presets alone you can swap between them and morph between them and that kind of thing, and then you can load up another bank of 64 and do the same with them. But there are thousands of presets in there to play with if presets are your thing. But they say there's more power in a single voice of the Moog One than there is in the entire Moog Voyager, which is the kind of thing that's probably going to piss off a lot of Moog Voyager customers. It has some extra cool stuff like some Eventide plugins at the end of the effects chain. So that's kind of a digital section built in there, which you can completely bypass if you want to keep the whole thing pure and analog. They produced this wonderful, trippy, hippie video all about it, which I think is excellent. Somehow it captures the essence of a Moog instrument and how it differs from other synthesizers in the world. I mean, everyone, of course, is going, oh my God, how much? Because it's a fair amount. It's about 6,000 quid, I think, for the 8 voices. 8 whole voices for 6,000. That's almost £1,000 a voice. Well, not quite, but something along those sorts of lines. And that seems a lot when we are in this world at the moment of cut price synthesizers and budget synthesizers, which is awesome. I have nothing against a budget synthesizer because it allows more people access into this fabulous world of electronic music making. But Moog are in a completely different sphere. There's no way that you can sit down and compare Behringer to Moog. There just isn't. They're in a different place producing instruments for a completely different group of people. And this video just kind of went out there, man, and people would yeah, man, this is just just look, oh, the vibes of this, and oh yes, I feel really connected with the root of my soul through these oscillations into this. It was just amazing. It's just the best thing. And I thought it really did sort of hammer home the idea that Moog is somehow some kind of lifestyle. It's a way of living. It's part of the environment and makeup of synthesizer soundscapes and such like, which Behringer, no matter how hard they try, that's something they can't clone. They can't copy that sense of enormity and that sense of history and how they are part of some ongoing tradition of musical creation. You can't do that. You can produce cut price synths, and that's awesome, but the rest of it, no, that's Moog, and they do that very well. Akai have produced an unexpected controller that works with FL Studio. I mean, who would have thought of such a thing? It looks absolutely fantastic. It looks like it should be a hardware sequencer, a pattern-based sort of 4-channel 16-step sequencer, in which case it would be awesome. But it's not. It's purely built along with ImageLine, in collaboration with ImageLine. It's built for FL Studio, so it runs their little channel rack, because FL Studio is this weird thing where it's forever been based upon a step sequencer. I mean, sometimes it's completely hidden away. If you're using it as a big DAW where you're recording instruments and bits and pieces, you're probably never going to see the channel rack, but it's always there in the background, this rack that dictates all of the different channels that are playing within the system and gives you a step sequence over whatever it is that they've got. And the Akai Fire, it gives you access to that in a lovely, touchable, playable, RGB LED kind of paddy sort of way. You can even wire 4 of them together to give you 8x32. I don't know why it's 8x32 as opposed to 16x16. Who knows? But you can create this immense controller to give you access over all sorts of things within FL Studio. And of course it does more than that. You can use the browser, you can browse through stuff, you can load plugins, you can mix and mute and do track settings and all sorts of bits and pieces. You can even turn it into a note playing device. You can play it like a keyboard, strange grid shaped keyboard, or like drum pads for a drum machine. It's a very natty and versatile little thing, and it even comes with a very nearly fully fledged version of FL Studio in the box. It's a great thing. I love the intentionality of it. Rather than just be a MIDI controller, why not do something real in a real piece of software? It's a bit like the Push with Ableton Live, something like that, designed to do something special within a particular piece of software, and that way it can do it well rather than just being something generic and MIDI like. It's a shame that it's not a standalone step sequencer, because that would also be awesome, but it does give a really good hardware experience for FL Studio users, and that's got to be pretty cool. Following their flavour of desktop audio interfaces, M-Audio have come up with another one. It's another box, it's another sort of wedge thing with a knob smack in the middle. It's an 8x4M, that's 8 inputs, which is cool. We need inputs more than we need outputs, I always believe. So an 8x4, 8 in, 4 out, it's pretty cool. You get 4 mic/line and then 2 instrument and then 2 line inputs, giving you 8 in total. So you could theoretically plug in a drum kit and a guitar and a bass and a keyboard. You could have a whole band stuffed into this one audio interface, which is quite nice. The other distinctive thing as to why this interface is a little bit interesting is that it has a USB-C connection, and we haven't seen many of those yet. So ideal for something like my Surface Go, which is over there, which has a USB-C connection. You could plug it straight in rather than having to go through some kind of hub or adapter. So that's nice, and it says it can do 24-bit up to 192 kilohertz, so super fast, super low latency and all that kind of thing. I used to really love M Audio products back in the day, even back when it was MIDI Man. Fantastic stuff, and was always kind of the go-to choice for Windows-based audio interfaces. Since they were picked up by Behringer a few years ago, I don't know, there's something about the level of confidence in that, and it's probably not well placed. It's probably really unkind to think of it in those ways. There's just something about M Audio no longer quite being M Audio. The same as TC Electronic is no longer really TC Electronic, it's now sort of Behringer. And in some ways I wish it just became Behringer, because then you could treat it in the same way and with a certain amount of certainty. Whereas when you have these other brands which have Behringer behind them, it just sort of feels like there's some kind of con going on, or a bait and switch of some kind. And that's probably, as I say, completely unfounded, but that's just how it makes me feel, man. As a position of someone who's used M Audio products for years and years and years, that's just how that makes me feel. But this current run of M-Track desktop audio interfaces, I think they all look great. They've all looked great. A little bit chunky, perhaps, but otherwise, yeah, pretty fantastic. So if you have a USB-C system, then that's got to be worth checking out, I think. Probably just as interesting is the SRI-2 from Fluid Audio. I've come across Fluid Audio before. I think they've got something to do with speakers, and they certainly have a sort of bordering on the cheesy logo with sort of LED meters going up and down in a fluidity kind of way. Yeah, anyway, they've produced this retro-looking 2-in-out box with a big knob in the middle. Just, exactly the sort of thing that I like. It looks good, it's got a nice bit of metering. There's not a whole lot more to say about it, other than I thought it just looked quite pretty. Because on the whole, audio interfaces are just a bit boring these days. I mean, I've got plenty of ideas for audio interfaces. If somebody wanted to get in touch, if you're a manufacturer who makes audio interfaces and wants to make something awesome, then come and talk to me, and I can lay out exactly the sort of thing that I believe every single person who's interested in computer-based audio and hardware and combining those things together in a single USB audio interface, I think is a huge winner. You've just got to come and talk to me about it, and we can develop it, and I can become fabulously rich. That'd be great. Now, a while ago, Soundbrenner decided that what we really need is a metronome on our wrist. Something that's going to thump away at you, telling you to keep in time. Stay in time, you! Anyway, so I always thought, I'm not quite sure who's going to use that. I mean, I guess it's great for drummers, because drummers are awful. No, because it's a good replacement for a click track. If you have to wear headphones with a click track to play along to, then that I can see that being a complete faff, and having one on your wrist thumping, or you could tie it to your chest, could be really useful for a small number of people, I suspect. I mean, they go into lengths about how you can use it to train yourself to stay in time with things, but who really wants to spend time doing that? I don't know. Anyway, they've come up with another one. So presumably they thought a metronome just wasn't quite enough either. So they come up with another one called Core, and this has got 4 things. 4, count them. How smart is your smartwatch? Can it do 4 things? This one can, but these are music-centric ones. First thing it does, here's your metronome. Still got that, still vibrating, still pulsing away on your wrist or on your head or, in your pocket. It still does that. Next thing it does is a loudness meter. So you can stand, next to a stand at Synthfest and go, oh no, look, you're 2 decibels too loud, you're going to have to turn down. Or, more seriously, of course, you could be at a gig and it's tell you that, this is really, really loud, and you probably need to put something in your ears to prevent hearing loss. Something like that, a loudness meter. Yeah, I can see that's useful, or at least it's fun to play with in any given situation. But probably the coolest thing it has is that it snaps off, literally snaps off. It doesn't just, you don't undo it, you snap the face off, slap it on your guitar, and it becomes a tuner. A contact tuner, magnetically attach your guitar, and off you go. Now that is useful. I can see that as being useful. Yeah, no, that's definitely useful. And then the final thing it does is it actually tells the time. I mean, I can't believe the first one didn't. What were they doing when the first one if it didn't even... I mean, you'd have to wear 2 watch. I mean, honestly. So it also tells the time and will connect up via Bluetooth to your phone and bits and pieces and give you notifications of stuff going on. So it suddenly becomes a little bit of a smart watch. And that $200 is at least half the price of an iWatch. I mean, it's kind of a great idea. It sort of looks good. It looks just about cool enough for it to be something that you wouldn't mind wearing on your wrist. And certainly it reduces all that faff you have. I mean, okay, you might have an app that's a tuner and an app that's a loudness meter and an app that's a metronome, but holding a phone to your guitar, trying to get that sorted out, messing about with it at a gig when you haven't got your hands free, it's just a faff. Whereas something which is on your wrist there, which you just stick on your guitar or just stays there and does things, that is actually more useful, and I can see that being a useful piece of kit. It's the sort of thing I'd like to try out. I don't know whether it would stay with me forever, but it's certainly worth trying out, I think. Now this is high on my list of things I need to do a review of, because they were good enough to send me a copy. I mean, that always helps, although I'm not always swayed by these sorts of things. But anyway, this is called TouchAble Pro, and it's an app that was running on the iPad which gives you touchable control over Ableton Live. Now I'm very much into touchable control over things because, you know, the surfaces that I talk about and other software, things like Emulator, and also the Yeko software, which was an awesome touch controller for Ableton Live. It would sit over the top and you could touch things and off you go. Liked that a great deal, used it at a gig and very successfully. But Yeko has kind of sort of sat on its laurels rather, and has not developed, not come any further since then. Whereas TouchAble Pro is bang up to date, renewed, rewritten, reproduced, and now bam, it's on Windows where it always should have been, because no one really wants to mess around with music on those iPad thingies. So here it is on Windows, and you can run it, and it looks fabulous. It will do all your clip launching as you imagine, or your scene launching, but also do mixing and routing, and also give you access to the browser. You can start dragging in samples and instruments. You can edit patterns, edit piano roll stuff. You can edit samples, all within this touch interface, and not actually having to look at Ableton at all. It becomes like a completely new front end for it, particularly because if you're running it on the Surface as opposed to some old Apple product, then you can actually have it running on the same machine as Ableton Live. You've not got 2 devices you have to mess about with, you've just got the one device, and you've got Ableton Live sort of hidden in the background, and you've got TouchAble Pro on the top where you're doing all your stuff with your fingers. Live performance, off you go. Fantastic, we like that. It also comes with a whole bunch of templates for running all of the different modules within Ableton Live. So anything that already exists within Ableton Live you can load up, and you've automatically got a touchable interface for it. If you want to extend that to other plugins and other devices, you can do so. You can build your own. And they've got a growing library of stuff that's coming online, covering all sorts of synths and bits and pieces. So it's a really good way of getting multiple touch control over a whole raft of plugins and instruments, and your whole performance all at once. And it looks great. Did I say that already? So yeah, that's TouchAble Pro. And I'm going to do a full review of it. I'm planning to. It's coming along at some point. If we can ever get this extension finished, if I ever get builders out of my house for a minute so I can get some peace and quiet and the dust settles a bit, then I will certainly give that a go. Now this is a beautiful little plugin. It's an absolute delight. It's called Riffer, and it's exactly what your DAW's MIDI sequencer should always have been. What it is, it's a MIDI sequencing plugin that you plug into your DAW. So it's like a MIDI plugin, I suppose, and it takes over the piano roll MIDI editing functionality, I suppose. Or at least it is a piano roll thing. But what's most important is that it's a very advanced and versatile randomization and probability based plugin. That means that you can generate patterns, you can generate melodies sort of on the fly just by hitting the big dice button. Boom, a whole bunch of stuff comes up. And you can quantize all of that to scales and set ranges and levels of probability, levels of randomness. You can even hit an infinity button and it'll just keep generating stuff forever. So a fantastic way to generate new patterns, or to take an existing pattern and to mess it about, or to come up with a melody within a constraint or without a constraint. Just let it go. As I say, it's the sort of thing that you would imagine a DAW sequencer should do. But when you think about it, the sequences in most DAWs are just really boring. I mean, you just get a piano roll. That's it. There you go. Record some stuff. I mean, that's all right. But in this day and age, you would have thought we'd have more stuff by now. I mean, Studio One have given it a go with their pattern-based step sequencing kind of thing. That's got probability built in and bits and pieces. And that's very interesting. And I'd like to see much more of that in more DAWs. But in most places, it's just very, very standard. So this, Riffer, you drop it in. I'm not entirely sure how you drop it in. Do you drop it in as a MIDI plugin, as an audio plugin? I'm not sure. I haven't explored it yet. I've just looked at it and thought, wow, that's fabulous. Because it is fabulous. But anyway, you drop it in, generate stuff, send it out to your MIDI gear, and off you go. I think everyone should have one. Novation has released a new version of their SL controller keyboard, which is great because the other ones, the old ones, always looked a bit weird to me. Kind of weird white things with stuff. Anyway, they've brought it up to date, bang up to date. It looks very Native Instruments, I have to say. It's got lots of little screens on it, pads on it, knobs on it. It looks like it's ready to do some serious business. And it is. But most importantly, it is because it has an inbuilt sequencer. So we have a hardware sequencer in a MIDI controller keyboard. That is rather exciting. It's pattern-based step sequencer. It's actually stolen out of the heart of the Novation circuit and stuffed in here, giving you 8 tracks of step sequencing. And in the back of the keyboard, they've stuffed in 2 channels of CV gate. So you can run sequences out to 2 different bits of hardware, as well as MIDI and USB on all the other tracks. So that sounds pretty exciting. Of course, the pads all light up in different colors and you can play with different things and you can tweak things with the knobs. It does all the usual things that controller keyboards do, transport control, Hui control, all of that rigmarole, but it's the sequencer that makes it really, really interesting. I mean, it doesn't have that kind of integration that Native Instruments has with its own different bits of software, but it's providing a slightly different way of working and bringing you from the computer out into a larger world, and that is a fabulous thing. Now, Novation sent this keyboard out to all of the cool kids out there, and so there are tons of videos showing you exactly what it can do, so go and check those out because they're all very good. Inspired by the Imogen Heap MINI.MU controller, wave controller gloves things, they control things. You go, you get the idea. It's a glove. It has technology in it. You move it about. It controls MIDI parameters. Imogen Heap have been playing with these for ages and have developed these gloves called the MINI.MU Gloves, which are fantastic. Anyway, the marvelously mad technologist Helen Lee decided that she could produce something similar for kids, say, for a fraction of the price, but with all the functionality and all the levels of hand-waving embarrassment and self-consciousness. And so she did. She got hold of some of those BBC microbit microcontrollers, little tiny winny computery thingies, and they've got all this right sort of movement sensors and gyroscopic sensors, and it even has an 8-bit chiptune sound engine in there. Attach a little speaker to it, a couple of wires, sew together a glove out of felt, stick it on, and you're off. It's just the most fabulous thing ever. I mean, no, it is. I mean, they're selling it as a kit. It's about 30, 40 quid, and you sew up your gloves, you program your microbit thingy, because you'd use sort of software a bit like Scratch, you know, Scratch, where you drop in different commands and it creates a little program, and you dump that via USB into the controller, and off you go. So it can be whatever you want. You can make it control whatever you want. I mean, and in the kit, you get the microbit, and you can use the microbit for anything. It doesn't have to be restricted to this thing. You can use it to build robots and take over the world. So it's a great way into that kind of programming, but using something as creative as making music by moving your hands around. It's fabulous. I love it. I'm going to buy one for all of my children, I think, for this Christmas. It's a fantastic thing. It does have potential for MIDI and DAW control with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or something. I'm not entirely sure, but it can potentially do that. So you could do the whole Imogen Heap thing you could do it yourself just with these 30 quid microcontrollers. So it could start as something silly and fun and get together as a family, do a bit of sewing, a little bit of programming, a little bit of microtechnology, and then it could develop into your entire live performance rig. So yeah, that's really good. It's called MINI.MU. I mean, it's even been endorsed by Imogen Heap and the whole MIMU crowd, and it's become part of their thing. But it's all done by this woman, Helen Lee, who's just fabulous. You should go find her on the internet doing crazy stuff. How long has this been going? I don't think we're anywhere near done yet. Recently funded on Kickstarter is Pipes. Now, Pipes is a big, nice chunk of hardware which is designed to run sample-based instruments. So as a sampler, no, it's not a sampler, it's a sample player, and it's designed to run massive instruments. It's designed to run massive instruments all the time with bugger all latency, very, very fast, huge samples, instant load times. That seems to be the idea. So if you can imagine having contact style instruments, massive pianos and multi-layer, this, that and the other, but to have them instantly accessible, instantly switchable between, and in a piece of hardware, so not run on your laptop or your computer or anything like that. So you've got no trade-off between processing power or disk space or latency or other bits and pieces. It will always do 64 voices. It will always be kicking out audio. It will always be instantly available because the whole thing is sort of held in RAM when it's loaded up. So you can instantly swap between different things, and they have their own compression format that they've invented in order to get all of the data in there, to get it streaming effectively and have it all instantly drawn and accessible from every single thing all at once. And then when you play it, oh look, it's a pretty decent piano sound. Oh, it's a pretty decent organ sound. Whatever instruments it is that you want loaded into the thing, I guess. It all runs on a little touchscreen, so there's no knobs, or was there a single knob? I think there might have been a single knob, but no real other control. Everything is just in through this touchscreen malarkey. But you can have multiple layers of stuff, all sorts of instruments loading up at once. You've got effects. You've got this pure data engine for running sort of MIDI effects and arpeggiators and sequencers and other bits and pieces all going on, all controllable through the little screen. I mean, the interface of the screen is kind of the weirdest bit. It looks a bit clunky, sort of dated and funny and weird, but I'm sure it's very, very functional. And the other thing it seems to have is only a stereo output. So everything you do in the box has to sort of stay in the box, which seems slightly out of character, particularly with sampled instruments, because you do want to have good hands-on mixing for these sorts of things. Trying to mix it in a tiny box on a little screen is not a whole lot of fun. But now that they've reached their main goal, so the whole thing's going to happen, they do have a stretch goal. I mean, it's a stretch goal which they've stretched as far away as you could possibly imagine to add extra outputs to it, because they think it's going to make the whole thing far too expensive. I think it's vital. I really do, because I think there's too much to do in a little box. Hardware needs to, to stay in hardware and to keep into other bits of hardware and to move itself about into the best position possible. I think when you go outside the computer, you need to get rid of those constraints. It's no good coming out of the computer into another little box where you have to do everything in there. No, you want to break out from the computer and then go everywhere, because that's what hardware is about. It's about going everywhere and being in everything. But anyway, if you're the sort of person who would like to have massively sampled instruments available to you in live performance or in the studio with a touch of a button, then this is the sort of thing for you. There's obviously a market for it because it has already funded on Kickstarter. And what I kind of like about it is the fact that it's still a project in development, because that's what Kickstarter should be about. All these Kickstarters that are just there to acquire pre-orders seems a bit, I don't know, we've already done all the work, so you're not really investing in us, you're just buying one. Whereas this, you're investing in the development of the product, and I think that's far more interesting. And ultimately, you will get one at the end. It's about $400 for the 32 gigabyte version. They also do a 128 gigabyte version, which initially sounds small, but I guess because it's probably, solid RAM as opposed to disk space that they're talking about. So that's Pipes, and that's probably really exciting for people who are interested in that sort of thing, but that's not really my scene, man. We have a new bunch of synthesizers from around the world, so let's start off with Peru. We have the AtomoSynth Asterion, I think, or Asterion, who cares? It's a fabulous looking synthesizer. It's sort of wedge shape, a bit like the Analog Solutions Fuse box. And on sort of initial looking, it looks, oh yeah, it's a nice sort of sit on your desktop, Euro racks and all sorts of stuff. But no, it's not that at all. What it is, well, no, it's not that at all, because there's a weird sort of sense of scale that goes wrong when you're looking at it, that your mind automatically skips to Eurorack thinking of that sort of size of thing, because that kind of makes sense. But it's not. This is more of the Moog size things. It's actually much bigger, and when you see the hands coming in the video, you go, oh my goodness, it's enormous. And all of that, it's got this massive patch bay at the bottom, which looks all like normal patch bays, but it's not. It's jack cables. It's great big, it's a massive patch bay, taking, you know, regular guitar jacks into and out of, with this enormous panel up here with these enormous Bakelite knobs all doing the business. I mean, it's a massive little mono synth. It's got 3 oscillators and filters and envelopes and LFOs, all that usual sort of synthesizer stuff. There's nothing quite unusual about that. What's unusual about it is the size. It's very imposing. It will sit on your desk and just dominate the whole place, looking like some ancient bit of telephonic gear. Meanwhile, over in Argentina comes the Apollo One. It's a little analog monosynth. Now, what strikes me as strange or funny about the Apollo One is just how kind of straightforward it is. By which I mean it's if someone said to you, draw a little synthesizer without a keyboard, you would probably draw this. It's all in nice, straightforward, ordered lines. There's your couple of oscillators, there's your envelope, there's your filter, there are your wooden cheeks on the side. It's angled in a bit of a console way, looks a bit like a Mother 32, I suppose, or any other synth you can name. So am I saying that it's a bit boring? Possibly, I suppose. It's just a bit straight, a bit square, I guess. So yeah, but it's out of Argentina. It's kind of interesting, and I guess its thing is that it's all MIDI based. There's no CV or gate on this thing. There's no patching or anything like that. It is purely a MIDI device. And in fact, some of the functionality is only accessible via MIDI. So when it talks about different LFO modes and bits and pieces, those you can only get to via MIDI. And that just puts a slightly weird spin on it. And in one of the demo videos, they're sitting there playing like heavy metal drums on a MIDI controller keyboard while it's playing a little bit of a bass line. It's just kind of unexpected. I guess that's South America. So there you have it. It's new, and it's another monosynth, the Apollo One. Then from Italy, from Fingersonic, we have the Analog Fusion. The Analog Fusion is a blending, a combination of both analog and digital synthesis. Now, not in a hybrid way, not in a way that sticks one into the other or takes an analog signal and puts it through a digital thing, or digital control over an analog. No. These are two completely separate engines. You've got a 6-voice, I think, analog engine in there of analog synthesis going through its own bits and pieces and filters and such like and so forth. And then you have a completely digital side, which can either be virtual analog or it can be FM synthesis. And you run these two independently, but then can blend them together to create this nice big sound. It sounds very impressive. It looks a bit sort of weird and complex, to be honest. A bit more like sort of an analog confusion. And then out of the UK comes Brunswick. Brunswick, which I think is named after the Brunswick Club in Bristol. And this is a weird synth thing made by Future Sound Systems. It's a kit, it's £100, and you can create your own crazy kind of phase looped, phase locked, phase comparative synthesizer, which is something that Future are really into. Really crazy, noisy, weird stuff going on. It's kind of, I imagine it's the opposite of the Apollo One, where the Apollo One is the straight kid of the block. This is the weirdo, the guy who's going to nick your drugs and go off and sleep with your mum. Yeah, that kind of thing. It's just a nonsense box of craziness, but you get to build it yourself, and it's got oscillators and filters and stuff. It's a very naked looking PCB with stuff coming off it. I think that's probably going to be amazing. And another one to put on your Christmas list. And just as a side to say that Behringer have approved their Pro One clone for production. So we should see that before Christmas with a bit of luck. And that's actually the one I'm kind of most interested in, because I'd just love to own a sequential synth. And I get the feeling that the Behringer Pro One is going to be the closest I'm ever going to get to that. Are we there yet? Not quite. Finally, Surface Pro 6, that has arrived. It's here. Look, it is. I've been making videos on it and stuff. That's been distracting me from the wonderful playing around of modular that I like to do. But, you know, I've got to make a living, you know. So the Surface Pro 6 is here. I've been making videos. And the great news is that it pretty much works. Yeah, it does. After a bit of tweaking, it seems to get itself in order, and it looks like it's completely possible to running low latency real-time audio with a USB audio interface and DAWs like Cubase, Pro Tools, Ableton Live, which is what I've tested it with so far. Lots more testing to do. I want to do some performance testing, compare it to the old one, compare it to the Surface Go, see what it's capable of doing, see what it can do on battery, see what it can do with its onboard sound and with other audio interfaces and virtual instruments and effects. All that kind of stuff is coming along. But it's not going to be immediate. You're just going to have to give me some time. You know, every couple of weeks I'll post up another video about it, because I can't focus entirely on that all by itself. I have to look at other stuff and got other stuff going on all the time. But I will do what I can. So if you're out there desperate for me to have tested something that you're particularly interested in, then just have patience. I will get to it. Or just buy one and do what it is you need to do and let me know, because that might be interesting. Who knows? But there's lots more to do on that. And the Surface Go as well, which is here. The Surface Go. Surface Go is so cute. Such a lovely, cute thing. So far, it's been exemplary. It's been really good. And I'd like to get some figures on its performance exactly, so that people know what the heck's going on. So I'll be doing videos on that as well. So there's lots of excitement in the whole world of Surface right now. And Microsoft, if you're out there and you want to send me a Surface Studio or a Surface Book number 2 or anything like that, do it, man. Do it. People are forever asking what the i7 version will be like, how it compares to the Surface Book, how this compares to this, that, and the other. You know, I would love to be able to answer those questions properly, but I just don't have any more money to spend on these things. You know, I've spent enough, and I've got in the one that I want to do all the videos on. But if you could send me other ones to test out and try as well, that would be great. That'd be really helpful to all those users out there who are constantly asking me for more information. So I'm in the middle of a huge storm at the moment. What with the building and the stuff, and the booze is obviously becoming a problem and all that jazz. But there's so much that I want to bring into YouTube land. I've got videos on modular DIY. I want to build that low pass gate. I want to build the sample slicer so badly. I've got reviews of things like I've lost it. Like the thing I've got over here, the tenderfoot lattice sequencer. I've also got the cells expansion for it. I want to do videos on that because it's fabulous. I want to do a whole roundup of different sequences, including the Variegate for What's It Here and the Hermod and stuff like that. I want to be doing those. I've got bits of software to do. I've got a thing over here. This thing. What the heck is that? It's a Jue. I don't know. That there with an accent on the thing and the thing. It's a very tactile kind of MIDI controller. Ooh, it's squishy. So I've got that to review. I've only got it for like a week. They said you can have it for 2 weeks, and it's already been sitting in a box for a week, so I've had so much other stuff to do. So I need to get stuck into that because I think it's a fascinating controller that I want to do a really good review of. So I've got to give that some time. And amongst all of this, there's an open mic night, sort of electronic music open mic night at some dodgy bar in Norwich in a couple of weeks. And I really want to go along. I've sort of dared myself to go along, take a little bit of modular and play for just 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Give it a go. Just get out there and give it a go. I really want to do that. And I'm just trying to find the time to sit down and think about it. In fact, you could help me with this because, as has become customary now after a Molten monthly music thing, we then have a live stream on the following Sunday. And we are going to have a live stream this Sunday, which is the 4th of November, I believe. This Sunday, 4th of November, it will be 9 o'clock because I'm at actually a bonfire party before that. We're burning effigies of some guy. But when I come back from that at about 9 o'clock, we'll have the whole live stream thing and we'll chat about this month's music technology. But I also want to ask your advice about live performance or live performance in general. What's the best thing to do? How am I going to going to crack this. I mean, there's no way I can take this whole rig because it will get broken, because it's in some sort of restaurant bar place and there's nowhere to keep stuff. I've just got to sort of bring stuff out, set it up, go, and then clear off again. So I don't want to take the whole thing. I'm going to have to sort of pare it down to maybe 1 row or 2 rows separately that I can carry in boxes safely and set up easily. So what do I use? How do I do that? How do I make that happen? How do I do something interesting for 15 minutes? I mean, this is not about building a track, or is it? I mean, I don't mean for recording. This is about performing something, changing something as you go. And yet to have it improvised and not all pre-written, because that's the joy of it, isn't it? So yeah, join me this Sunday, 9 o'clock. That's 9 o'clock GMT, because we put the clocks back again, so we're now on proper time or something. So 9 o'clock GMT, wherever you are, that's what we'll be at. That's what I'll be at, and I'll be here. And this time, I promise, the audio won't be crap. It'll be great. It'll just all be awesome, because it has to by now. I've done this long enough now that I must be able to get this thing sorted and not have choppy audio and not have weird things going on, and it just sort of works. That's the plan. That's the plan. So that's this Sunday. Come and join me, because it'll be great. And it's always been a whole load of fun. I mean, if you're new to this whole channel and you've just sort of like gone on board, we had a whole load of new subscribers recently. Welcome. You're so welcome here. I hope you enjoy whatever it is piffle I'm babbling on about. And come and join us and chat, because I really enjoy talking to people in the comments and that sort of thing. There's not some big thing going on. We're just there to chat, to talk about it, ask questions, answer questions, to maybe play a bit of music, talk about product. You know, just for an hour or two. It's awesome. Join us. Join us. So that sounds about right. That's probably about it. So, you know, do all the usual things. Share us about, subscribe, or if you're particularly daring, come over to Patreon and throw me a whole load of money. You know, the first person to throw me $1,000 gets a special t-shirt that I will hand make or something. And I'll make a bunch of videos in your honor, in your name. You know, that'd be great. Let's go and do that. So head over to the Patreon page. The link is here. And see what you think about supporting me in making more of these videos, and buying more booze and more gear and getting to talk about it on the telly. That'd be great. And in the meantime, go and make some tunes.